Hello, my name is Lee Augustine, and I would like to share my media presentation titled Media and Misogyny. Introduction. The topic of this media analysis is misogyny in the media. Misogyny is defined as the dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. An example of this could be gender bias, or sexism, which is defined in the Banks and Banks Multicultural Text Glossary as social, political, and economic structures that advantage one sex over the other. I chose this topic because I want to understand how the history of gender bias has impacted women over time. We can often look to the media to understand changes in society and societal views. Through this research, the interviews and the analysis of women in the media completed for this project, I hope to provide insight on whether the fight against stereotype inequality continues. Colonial times and women's education. During these times, women often did not attend school. When they did, it was a gradual process of being allowed to attend, and those who did learned domestic duties such as learning to read so that they could read their Bible to their children. From 1861 to 1865, women enrolled in universities while men fought the Civil War. And in the absence of men, these universities, desperate for tuition funds, accepted women. However, male students protested because educating women was not a popular idea in those days, and it was even considered dangerous. In 1873, Dr. Edward Clarke wrote in his book titled Sex Education that educating women was a medical risk, stating that the stress of study would redirect blood destined for the development of and the health of ovaries to women's brains, causing them to have monstrous brains, puny bodies, and constipated bowels. So out of fear, many women fail to seek advanced education because they believe this. The 1920s right to vote, led by Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, and Lucy Stone. They were important figures in the women's right movement and campaigned for the right to vote. Societal minimalization of female roles is also reflected in media depictions of women. And here I have a picture of June Cleaver, and this says, "I almost spent my day polishing silver, but I remembered I have a life to live." We often saw Miss Cleaver taking care of her family, but there were never any aspirations expressed to do anything other than that. In the 1970s, popular sitcoms featured attractive women who were not very smart. We saw the housewife, the working class women. We saw women in social settings that were all very attractive women, but they did not exhibit any real intelligence in the media depiction. In the 1970s and 80s, women were educated in male Ivy League universities. And at that time, popular sitcoms began to feature strong, educated women in leading roles, such as the mother, head of household, and wealthy businesswoman from the Who's the Boss sitcom, the attorney, mother, strong female model from The Cosby Show, and then there's Murphy Brown, that we are all very familiar with. The popularity of Media depictions of women in strong roles and as allies continued to grow. There were roles such as, or models such as Cagney and Lacey, the female police officers, or detectives rather. Oprah Winfrey and Sally Jessy Raphael were very successful talk show hosts. However, the 21st century woman on TV does not always reflect the common goals and unity that earned the rights that women have today. Many women fought stereotyping and sexualization in society and media. However, there are many women today um, who voluntarily sexualize themselves and place themselves in stereotypical roles that contributed to marginalization in the past. And in addition to that, there are the surgical enhancements that occur in the attempt to achieve the physical beauty that women deem attractive to the male population. The 21st century woman on TV is very surprising that wealthy, mature, educated women are allowing themselves to be depicted in roles of self-centered backstabbers who care nothing for other women. And sometimes I wonder, is this just entertainment, or is this a true reflection of the relationships among women today? Well, the mean girls are real. We've had many victories in the fight against negative stereotypes, sexism, marginalization, and oppression. So where did the female misogynists come from? I suspect that women have internalized and adapted the negative attitudes that once offended us, and I've interviewed a number of women who say that they feel the same way. I've spoken with women in regard to female oppression, and here is a marvelous quote that communicates the disappointment and the experiences that they shared with me. What woman here is so enamored of her own oppression that she cannot see her heel print upon another woman's face? Audre Lorde. And here I have 4 or 5 interviews that I conducted with working class women who expressed feeling oppressed, not receiving the support that they would expect from women in their professions, from women in their social groups. And all of that is written here. There's a lot on the slide, so you can read that if you like. I'm going to proceed to what's wrong with the media's portrayal of women today and how do we reverse it. Now, this is an article written by Kathy Caprino. She's a personal success coach, a writer, and a keynote speaker and a leadership developer. And she wrote from her view on popular media focus and the negative or limiting aspect on women, including intense scrutiny of emphasis on their looks and obsession with their looks. And she concluded by saying, I have always wondered why women do not support one another through the struggles and issues that we experience as a group, especially when oppression and bias that we've managed to overcome require unification and a united front that seems to have dissipated. I have thought the same thing. So, what is the impact of female social identity? There's some research that supports some of the ideologies expressed in previous slides. According to Lambert and colleagues, members of low status groups, and in this case we're referring to marginalized women, are likely to engage in self-enhancing strategies that undermine solidarity within their groups. In additional studies, Hinkle and Brown state that members of low status groups find it difficult to maintain positive in-group distinctiveness and hence find in-group interactions less attractive. And these studies continued on to say that under these circumstances, members of low status groups may engage in personal self-enhancing strategies. And this suggests that such people, in this case we're referring to women, may actively disassociate themselves from members of their group by attempting to distinguish themselves as exceptional or uncharacteristically worthy. So I conclude this presentation by saying that multicultural education and sustainable pedagogy are necessary. These lessons teach students to respect differences and similarities among societal groups. And without these lessons, some of these students would never even learn this. They may not learn to uphold the unity that made us strong, and they could fail to recognize the contributions that each group has made to society. So as teachers, it's very important that we teach these lessons and that we help children to appreciate the sacrifices that have been made so that we can have the lives that we have today, and to appreciate one another and the assets that we all contribute to society. Thank you.